Almost 10 years after winning independence from Mexico and a long controversial diplomatic struggle, Texas was annexed to the United States. On February 19, 1846, during that same month, the first Texas legislature convened. January 10, 2023, marked the 88th convening of the Texas legislature. There have been a lot of changes over the past 177 years, but this experiment we call democracy still endures. Today, we have 150 state representatives and 31 senators in Texas. The Senate is far less representative than it should be. About 70% of its members are white, 23% are Hispanic, and 6% black. The 88th legislative session will have 53 women, 45 in the House, and only 8 in the Senate. In this episode of the Latino Business Report, our guest is Claudia Ordaz, a young Latina state representative from El Paso, Texas. Claudia is a second-term lawmaker on a mission to advocate for her district and to serve the people of Texas despite the obstacles she faces. Representative Ordaz is young, a woman, Hispanic, and a Democrat in a Republican-controlled state. Ready to face any challenge, this young political gladiator suits up every morning to face the challenges of the day. She is a voice for her district and for those who feel they have no voice.
Welcome to the Latino Business Report. This podcast covers business, people, and issues of the day from a Latino perspective. The Latino Business Report is brought to you by TAMAC, the Texas Association of Mexican American Chambers of Commerce. TAMAC is the leading Hispanic business organization in Texas since 1975. Now for your host, J.R. Gonzales.
And welcome to the Latino Business Report. Today we're very fortunate. We were in the busy hallways of the state capitol and we caught up with Texas State Representative Claudia Ordaz. Claudia, how are you doing today?
Woo! From El Paso, Texas.
From El Paso, Texas, State Representative.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for making the time. I know you're very, very busy, and we're going to kind of go through a lot of information quickly. But first of all, you're a state representative of El Paso. Congratulations. But this is your second term. This isn't your first one, right?
That's right. It's my second term. It feels like I've been here much longer, though, JR. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I know. It can get that way. And prior to being a state representative, you were the mayor pro tem for the city of El Paso. And and from what I understand, one of the youngest elected officials in the county.
Yes, when I first got elected, not anymore. And I'm far from that now. But yes, when I was elected, yes, I was the youngest elected official in the city of El Paso at the time. And when I took office, it created the first ever female majority on city council, which is great. You know, I mean, we have a lot of work to do here at the state of Texas, but I was happy that in El Paso, I was able to be part of making history that way.
Well, and you must have been, because right now, to me, you look like you're about 23, 24 years old already anyway, so you must have been very, very young.
You're smart, JR, you're smart.
I should be a politician, right? Well, we have the Texas legislature going on. It just started the session. And there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of people may not realize the importance of what happens in the state legislature in the state of Texas that meets every other year. So as a representative, can you kind of just give us a 35,000-foot view of what a state representative does during a legislative session?
You know, that's a very good question. And it's just, you know, when I first got here, folks used to tell me, you know, it is like drinking through a fire hose. And it truly felt like that. Our first session, you know, there's close to, my gosh, on average, like 5,000 bills filed, you know, every legislative session. And like you said, we meet for 6 months every 2 years. So that's a lot of work that needs to be done in such a short amount of time, and dealing with an array of issues, whether it's issues dealing with small businesses, whether it's education, higher education, whether it's our roads, whether it's our schools. There's so many issues that we have to look at, so many people that we have to talk to. I mean, these halls right now are just buzzing with people. There's people coming in my office each and every day. It feels like every couple minutes or so, people are coming in talking about a different issue. And so there's a lot of issues that we need to tackle, but it's important. I mean, this is the great state of Texas, so we have to do all that we can to ensure that we are looking at every issue that's going to impact and help all Texans, right? And in El Paso, for me, like we're the 6th largest city in the state of Texas, but we are so far away, JR. Imagine trying to make that drive.
I've made the drive a couple times. Yes, I know how far away you are.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
Am I in Disneyland yet? I mean, I've been driving long enough.
It's quite a trek. I mean, we are a stone throws away from Mexico being a border town, and I'm just a few minutes away from New Mexico. So it just shows, just how big the state of Texas is. But, for the constituents I represent, I mean, they're hundreds of miles away. So when they elect us to do a job, that weight that we carry is heavy, because we want to do all that we can to represent our community well.
You have a responsibility to your constituents.
We absolutely do. And it's funny because my first session, my chief of staff, Christina Masters, she's incredible. She asked me one time, she's like, what sense, or what is that feeling that comes over you when you look at that pink dome, when you look at that building? And I just felt this immense amount of just my honest answer was just that pressure, knowing that there's so much weighing on this. So humbled and grateful, and it's such an honor to represent, my constituents in El Paso, and it is something I do not take lightly every day. So when I think about the work that we do, I mean, we have to be 10 steps ahead. We have to work twice as hard, because not only am I a woman, right, working in a male-dominated industry, but I'm also a brown woman, right?
Latina,
and I'm a Democrat. It's like all these things, So we have to work extra hard to ensure that we can pass all the things that we need to pass to ensure that we're doing the best that we can for our communities.
Wow. Now, this isn't even though it's 6 months out of every other year, it's not a 9-to-5 job.
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, JR, on good days, you're at home like at 11 o'clock at night. On good days. I mean, but there are times when you're on the house floor till 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and things are just, in May is just, everybody's irritable. Everybody's just tired.
Ready for it
hungry,
to be over, yeah.
Cold, because the house floor is so freezing. By the way, you're just an uncomfortable mess, towards the end of session, and you work so hard on your bills, and you're seeing them die, or, the stresses of seeing them pass. I mean, it is nuts here. And it's really living in a bubble. Like you get entrenched in this environment and just focused on all the inner workings of what's happening underneath this dome, that, there's life happening outside this Capitol. But, this is just our life for the next 6 months. I mean, it is nuts. It's nuts. I mean, JR, you've seen it.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're talking about it, and people know.
Yes, I've seen it back in the old days when I was much younger and much more capable, if you will, to hold up to the pace. I used to work in the legislative session. I was on the Senate side back in the day, and it is hectic. So, Representative, when do you start your day? About what time? What time do you start in the morning?
That's a very good. So I have a strict routine, and I want to get better with this routine to help with my sanity and help me just be better. My first session, I just, again, drinking through a fire hose, didn't know how to get into the swing of things. And then I was part of the COVID class. So It was a very, very different session. I mean, you had masks. I mean, we were testing every day. The Capitol was pretty much closed for a very long time, plexiglass everywhere. So it was a very different session, as opposed to like now, where just these halls are just buzzing with people. I mean, it's significantly different. But I did learn that I do want to be better with routines and ensuring that, so I'm up probably I would say 6 in the morning, and then I have to have my super greens in the morning, just an opportunity, just kind of reflect, think. I pray every single morning. I cannot start a day without praying and doing my daily devotional. And then I'm trying to do some gym thing, some workout thing.
Try to stay healthy physically.
Some physical thing. I have my dogs with me here. So I take them on walks every morning. So I have to think about that too. And then you get into the office, but you're already on your phone answering emails. One of my first calls to my chief of staff, just kind of checking in to see how things are going. And then we start our day, but it is different every day. Like today we had nonstop meetings. We're going over our legislative agenda, tackling each agenda. And I mean, each issue that we're working on is part of our agenda. And it's a lot of work that just goes into one bill, because not only you have to work with 150 members, there's also the Senate, and there's also the lieutenant governor, there's also the governor. And then you have your constituents that you have to report to. And then you have stakeholders that you want to get feedback from, and so on and so forth. So there's it's a lot that goes into just one bill. So it's really a lot of work.
Oh, and once the bill, if the bill is fortunate enough to pass out, then you have to deal with it on the Senate side, and then it goes.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
It goes, and the thing starts over, and then if it gets to the governor, then the governor may or may not sign it. So yeah,
exactly.
It's crazy. So is it safe to say then during session you're putting in an average probably about what, 14 to 16 hour days easy?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, and everything here is about relationships. It really is. Because I mean, without that, I mean, it is nearly impossible, really, at least for me. And I'm naturally a people person, so I feel really good in that role. But it's a lot of people that you really have to get acquainted with, a lot of conversations you have to have. But it's a lot. Yes, JR, it is
Okay.
a lot of work.
Now, Representative, you strike me as a knowledgeable, well-educated, and smart woman. So why the hell do you do this?
It's service, It's
I mean, this is service to the 10th power. I mean, that's a lot of time. And you you do get paid by the state. So in all fairness, our tax dollars are going to pay your salary. And you make what, $600 a month to do this?
Yep, that's right. $600 a month to do this job. But I promise you, it is gratifying. And
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's a tremendous honor. My family, I came from a military family. Every one of my uncles served. My grandfather served. So service to me was ingrained at an early age. And so I wanted to carry that on to serve my community in any way. I can't imagine doing anything else. I really can't, aside from public service. That's all that I know. And it's all that I want to continue to know, God willing. But it really is. It truly is a beautiful job, stressful,
Yes.
but it is incredibly gratifying and rewarding.
Well, I'm glad I'm glad you find it rewarding, because you do a great job at it, and thank you for being there. I know that last session you were on some committees, the Business and Industry Committee, and you were also part of the team that passed that $400 million to help small businesses during the COVID session. So thank you for that.
500 million. Close.
Yeah,
Now it's
400 million. Yeah, excuse me, 400 million. And then as we look at it going into this legislative session, there's a state surplus of $33 billion that are sitting there?
That's right. Yes. I mean, there's a lot, and there's so many people. I mean, there's so many issues that we need to fund, right? I mean, we're ensuring, and our communities need that funding too, for whether it's education, continue to support, our small businesses. That bill was such a heavy lift for us. I mean, it was something that I truly cared about. I mean, my dad was a small business owner. And there's so many small businesses that are still really suffering and reeling through what happened in COVID. So I work closely with the governor's office and their economic development department to get that fund moving. So we're really thrilled that program is established, and it's going to be a revolving loan fund for that really benefits micro businesses. And that's a new definition that's now added in our code that is for employees, for businesses that have employees 20 and under, or your sole proprietors.
And that is great. That is great, because before, when you talk about small business, that could be a mom and pop with 2 or 3 people up to 500.
Yes, that's not
and
small.
500 in my mind is not a small business. I mean, that is so. Yeah,
no, and they were. I mean, and the mom and pop the shops, they were struggling, with those PPP loans. I mean, they don't have general counsels on their staff, to help with, figure out the legal jargon and all these applications for these PPPs. I mean, that's why they were left out. So that is why we passed that bill to help ensure that the small guys were going to get.
And don't get me started on who was left out, because there's a lot of people left out, and a lot of that money went to some of the big guys that probably, in my opinion, didn't even need it, but they definitely took advantage of it.
They definitely did. So we're happy and thrilled that they're going to be prioritized in this pot of funding, and it's twofold. Whether it's low interest loans, because we know access to capital is important, and also for lending institutions that lend small businesses these funds, and for whatever reason they default. The second part of the program will help recover those funds. So it's twofold, but it is going to be a revolving loan program that will continue through the years. Okay. So we're really happy about that.
And Representative, I know it's early in the session, but have you gotten your committee assignments yet?
No, we actually. So your listeners can't see anything, right? They can't see
this is audio only.
So this is my committee preference card, right? That I'm filling out. And I'm going to turn into the speaker. And so it's due next week. And so we'll probably get those committee assignments either, first week of February or second week of February. So we're all anxiously waiting for these committee assignments. So the Senate's came out today.
Yeah, so I saw that. I saw the Senate's came out today, and definitely saw Senator Menendez and some of the others on some of the committees that there. Some of the business committees, education committee, look forward to working with them. As we look forward to working with you and continue working with you. But what committees are you putting in for? What committees do you hope to be on?
JR, the smart answer is I'm happy to serve wherever I am.
The politically correct answer. I'm just here to serve. Okay.
I am really here to serve. But I do really want to ensure that we're doing all that we can for not only El Paso, but just border communities in general. There's a lot of talk about border security. That is at the forefront of whether it's Republicans or whether it's Democrats. I do believe there is a way for us to all agree on border security. It's funding border security, but a smart way. Right. I mean, there's so much potential at our, in our communities like El Paso. I mean, the workforce, the culture. I mean, so much economic prosperity. Being so close to Mexico. I mean, billions cross through our ports every year. So how are we ensuring that we're crossing goods faster, smarter? How are we ensuring that people are crossing smarter? And so there is a way. I do believe there is a way to find a bipartisan solution to what's happening at the border. And I want more people. I mean, JR, that is my thing. It's like, come to El Paso, see what it's all about. Please don't listen to this rhetoric that's, that the border is dangerous. I mean, we're one of the safest communities not only in the state of Texas, but across the nation, because we have every single law enforcement agency, all boots are on the ground in El Paso. Right. And so it's just, I want to ensure that we're telling the right story when we talk about the border, and ensuring that I do my part to do what I can to represent and be that voice for the border and El Paso. And so the International Relations and Economic Development Committee, I'm grateful. I loved serving on that committee, and I hope, God willing, to serve there again. And so we'll see. We have 27 new members, so there's a lot of turnover in the House. So there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking, and so we'll see what happens. But I'm really, though, and at the end of the day, happy to serve wherever, because I'm such a nerd when it comes to. I love these. You get an opportunity to really delve into issues that you never really would think you would delve into before, and you learn so many things. And so, such a nerd when it comes to that. So I really am just excited just to get to work, really.
Well, I'm glad because somebody has to. And you were also on the Business and Industry Committee last session.
That's right.
So and great. So and a lot of people don't recognize. I mean, business is important. I mean, we have a very healthy economy in Texas. There's room for improvement, but the success of our state depends on the sustainability of our business and our small business owners to keep going and producing products and be an integral part of the state, which in turn is a part of the country. And then there's the fact that, there again, this, but Mexico is our second largest trading partner in the world? I mean, even though there's border issues, you cannot ignore our neighbor to the south. That is our second largest trading partner in the world. And
you need to just go around, JR, and go to every single office and remind every single office of that one fact, because it's true.
It is true. And especially here in Texas, Claudia, and you see it. I mean, we're now over 40% of Latinos are now the largest population in Texas. And they were at 40.2, what the census said, and we were undercounted. We're probably a lot more than that, but we're always undercounted.
100%.
With that, and where I think whites in the state of Texas is at 38 point something or 39, Latinos are at 40.2. And then if you were to get all the Latinos in the U.S., and if we were to be our own country, we would have the 5th largest GDP in the world. The 5th largest GDP. We have, and the population is growing. Look at the average age of the Hispanic in this country. We're at 27, 28 years old, and the average age of a white person or people averages in the mid 40s already. So we're younger, childbearing, a lot of good Catholics, lots of kids. We have out there. I mean, we are the workforce. We're part of the future. So ignoring, and that's why I'm so happy to see people like you, representatives of you, young, Latina, vibrant, committed to public service to represent. But even that, we're still very underrepresented in the House and in the Senate when it comes to elected officials. And I'm not talking about partisan politics, because we need Hispanics on both, the Republican and the Democrat side. I mean, whether you're Republican, I tell people, I don't care if you're Republican, you're Democrat, you're libertarian, vegetarian, get involved. Get involved and vote. Because you're
absolutely right. And I mean, I'm constantly talking about representation, not only for Latinos, but also, women as well. You're absolutely right. We just came off a redistricting year, and Latinos made up the largest growth. And so what does that say? Like you said, we're young. I mean, and it's just that trend is going to continue to grow. Mm-hmm. But the issue is, though, when you look at our elected officials, that is not represented. When you see, especially when I'm going to talk to, I'm there at career day, and I'm, trying to talk to these kids and trying to encourage them to really think about a life in public service. And when you talk about those numbers, I mean, they're staggering. Like for women too. I mean, we make up over, 50% of the voting population, but my gosh, like a third of us are actually represented in the House. It's better now. That was last session. Now we have more women representation, which is exciting. But there's a lot of work we need to do. But then when you look at Latinos, I mean, it's dismal. So, and it's not reflective of all the growth that we saw in the state of Texas over this last census. So it's a lot of work to do. We got to do our best to ensure that, public service is a great career opportunity. And you don't need to be an attorney. You don't need to, study political science or government. I mean, I serve with a wide array of people, from business owners, a lot of small business owners here in the ledge. I mean, doctors to, veterinarians to, you could be an expert in a number of fields and still serve, because in the House, you can do that. Like we spoke about earlier. I mean, we only meet once every 2 years. So you have to have another job on the side. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, we just need to encourage, JR. We have our work cut out for us. We need to get more Latinos to run for office.
And to the point, and just going back to some high school civics lessons here, there's you have the Senate, which is 31 members?
31 members.
31, but the House
right.
is made up in direct correlation to population. So the numbers of the House will fluctuate, and in Texas are just growing larger and larger. How many state representatives do we have nowadays?
I know. It's too many. 150. It's a lot of people.
It's a staggering number, and it's like, oh gosh, what is it? It's like watching the sausage be made. Sometimes when new laws go into effect, so it's
molasses. Isaiah moves like molasses here.
And it's interesting in the state of Texas. I mean, we're very unique. We have a lot of things going. But I was kind of before this podcast, I did a little bit of research. And Representative, did you know that it is illegal in the state of Texas to shoot a buffalo from a second-story hotel window? That's still on the books. I
I mean,
find
it's
it.
completely understandable. I mean, that is such a common sense measure, JR. I mean,
I mean, if you're in a private
if you
residence, you can shoot out of the second story window and shoot a buffalo. But if you're in a hotel, they're going to charge you a hotel occupancy tax fee or something. I don't know.
JR, I'm going to totally use that analogy because there are so many bills that we worked on that we say this is such a common sense bill, and I can't get, like I was like last session, I was trying to protect communities, especially Latino communities. It was an issue that happened in El Paso. Keep medical waste facilities from operating in the middle of a neighborhood. I was like, this is common sense. I'll totally get this done. And
common sense is not that common. It is not that common.
But yet, what was the stat that you just said that we're not able to shoot a buffalo from a second story? I mean, come on.
A second story window of a hotel. Okay.
That's insane.
Well, here's another one for you, Representative, that in the state of Texas, it is illegal to milk another person's cow.
Lay off my cows.
That law, I think, is utterly preposterous, but we won't go there.
I mean, there's so many laws. I mean, there are so many, archaic laws on that book. I mean, it is. I mean, have you seen how
yes
how many laws we actually have? It is insane.
God bless Texas. We need it. God bless our hearts.
The great state of Texas.
Well, as the great state of Texas. So, what is on your? I know you don't have your committee assignments yet, but is there anything in particular that you're passionate about? I know you have a passion for a lot of subjects, and I just want to touch base on one of them before our time runs out. Is predatory lending. I know, absolutely. And I know your story a little more than most. So, if you don't mind, would you mind just sharing with listeners why that is so important to you and how that has directly affected your family?
Absolutely, and that is a bill I'm going to be filing every legislative session until I can get it passed. And I've made some movement, but there's a lot of special interest in the state when it comes to predatory lending. And I'm grateful for all the work that you all do. Really, I am, because you all are helping, not only small businesses, but Latino-owned businesses. My dad was a small business owner. And the stats for small businesses, 1 in 5 fail within, what is it? The first year, right? And the statistics are even worse for minorities. My dad fixed TVs for a living. I remember it was Texas Television, and I remember helping my dad. He taught me all about circuits and helping teach me looking through his workbooks and so on and so forth. But running a small business is hard, and especially for Latinos, to get into a traditional banking system is difficult. And sadly, a lot of Latinos end up heavily relying on hard money. And sadly, my dad got wrapped up in getting some help from a predatory lender. They're practically on every corner. They're like, fast cash sure. Now. When people are just really hardworking families, really just trying to put food on the table, that's really what my dad was trying to do, and just needed some help when he fell on some hard times. And these lenders, my gosh, JR, I didn't understand at the time. I was in high school when he was struggling. But, when you get a loan, you're looking, what's the first thing you look at? You're looking at the interest mm-hmm. rates. You're looking how much you're going to be able to pay off, in the upfront, so on and so forth. These predatory lenders, like, those fees are wrapped up in these loans. So they're going to get their funds regardless. And they target minorities, military communities, and students. And El Paso has that. And sadly, my dad got wrapped into it. Sadly, we filed for bankruptcy when I was a junior in high school. Had no idea why, until I looked into the books and to the finances when I was in college and learned all about this industry and just how upsetting and how many people were wrapped up in that same cycle of debt that is so, so hard to get out of. I was thankful. I worked in high school, at a young age, saved up for college. In college, I worked throughout, I worked a part-time job. And then when I was out, of college, I saved up enough to pay off their debts and was able to finally get them into, their first home that they could own. And it was one of the most gratifying things, that one of the first votes I took on city council was to ensure that we're going to protect consumers, that we're going to protect small businesses from these harmful predatory lending practices. So I thought, well, why don't we do this in the state of Texas? And, it's such an uphill battle, sadly, because there's a lot of interests, special interests that are directly tied to predatory lenders. And, instead of protecting consumers, I feel at the end of the day, we're hurting them. And so we're working on a bill, and it's the same bill that we filed last session. I was hopeful it was going to get out of committee. It did not. I'm hopeful that it may get out now, depending on who's on that committee. But it was reasonable. It's during a declared disaster, and you would cap the interest rate at 30%. That's it, just during a declared disaster.
Wow. A 30% cap?
Yes, and that's 30%.
30%?
They are 30%. And when I'm talking to some of my colleagues on why they wouldn't agree with something like that, they didn't agree with the cap. And I'm like, okay, well then tell me what's a reasonable cap. 100%?
Whoa. To me, 30% cap is outrageous.
It's high. You wouldn't get a credit card for 30% right now, would you? This is the frustration. This is the frustration that we have to deal with. And it's just, we are just trying to protect hardworking families at the end of the day that are really just trying to put food on the table, that are really just trying to help, contribute to our economy, make a living. It's not easy running a small business. Your viewers are like nodding their heads. Absolutely. And so it was really upsetting when I couldn't get that bill even passed through committee. I did have a hearing. So I hope that this upcoming legislative session, we will at least try to get it to the House floor, and we'll see. But we're going to work on it.
Well,
we're going to continue working.
Okay. What other obstacle? What's the resistance? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm stuttering and stammering here out of frustration.
Common sense, JR, remember.
Common sense is not that common. Common sense is not that common. But how can any reasonable thinking person, not want to put some sort of cap on predatory lending? Because, not only does that affect the individual who unfortunately has that loan, but, there's a ripple effect because that family, that business, every individual, every small business is vital to the economy and the sustainability of our great state of Texas. And we're very fortunate here. We're very blessed. But something like predatory lending is just that, predatory lending. I cannot imagine why a fellow legislator would not want to vote in favor of something and then let it die in committee. It makes no sense.
Yeah, we call those special interests in the state.
Okay, well, let me tell you what. This session, Representative, you file that thing, and I'm here, our group of Hispanic business owners in Tamac, we're here. We'll go to the table, we'll drop cards, we'll give testimony, we'll do whatever, because, that is just wrong. That is just
Well, it's filed
wrong.
already. It is filed.
Okay.
And so let me see if I can get that bill number for you so that y'all can follow the movement on that bill. But I'm really just excited to see who ends up on that pensions committee. So it's HB 1384.
1384.
So,
do you have any co-sponsors on that?
Not yet. We're going to wait until the committee assignments come out, and then that's where we'll strategize to see if we can get members on that committee to actually sign on at that point. We're trying to be strategic on how we can get this passed through that committee and into the House. It's a tough bill, knowing how many people have a vested interest in this one issue. Yeah, we're going to keep working on it.
And on the Senate side, is there a companion bill or anything over there yet, or do you anticipate one?
Yeah, we have a hopeful that we're whether it's a Representative Blanco or someone else, but we're hopeful we can get a companion sponsor on this, and so we'll work on it both ways. Let's just see what happens. You need a what I say. I'm like, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of prayer. I go light my candles. That's when I'm in like power prayer. We need that here, JR.
Start a bonfire with all the candles we need to light. Jeez.
I know.
But, well, we will be watching that. I know there's, literally for those who are not familiar with the session, literally thousands of bills are going to be filed. And only so many will make it through committee and get out of committee and never get to the floor. So, it's a process, and I really sincerely, Representative, I take my hat off to you, and I really respect and admire you and the other colleagues that you work with. Not that I always agree with some of the other colleagues, but that's okay. I mean, that's what makes this country great, difference of opinion. But especially when it comes to, we definitely want to keep us informed and do what we can with the border issues. I mean, I was born along the Texas-Mexico border. I'm familiar with it. To me, it was just the everyday life going back and forth. Yes. And yes, we have issues, but what's really frustrating is the demonizing of the Mexican border that you see on the national news and the narrative, and a lot of people who are unaware of what's really going on, for lack of just not having the information, buy into some of that stuff. As a result, and I think you and I may have mentioned this before, I've always been a proponent, an advocate, if you will, of a guest worker program. Let's get folks over here. I mean, we do not have enough employees in Texas anyway.
Bracero program.
Yeah, I mean the old. Model off the old Bracero program back in World War II. I mean, but if a guest worker program were to come over here, where people were registered, they were vetted, you know who they are, they don't have criminal records, come in and work for a period of time, be able to go back between the borders freely on the weekends, and use the money they make here to build their own businesses or a better way of life in their own countries, and you're not going to have as many people wanting to come here if, in fact, this situation changes for their own country. But, it's
such a best practice model. It really, really was. I mean, I was really such a fan of that program, and it's so unfortunate. I mean, it's just like, it's just hampered with like these ridiculous and expensive regulations. I mean, it's so restrictive with all the laws. I mean, we could be doing so much better. And that is such a great incentive, right? And I think if we really actually sit down and have those conversations, that is a bipartisan solution if we do it right.
Yes, you're right. And I hate to do this, but I'm getting a text message from your chief of staff because there's supposed to be a hard stop on this. But is there anything else you'd like to say? And I'd like to invite you back at another time because to kind of keep up with what's going on in the session. I mean,
I'm excited to work with you and your group. I told you y'all are one of my favorite groups because you all are really that voice for Latinos, for minorities, and in the small businesses, the people who really need a whole lot of help, especially coming through such a tumultuous couple of years through COVID that we're still reeling through, as we spoke about. And so I can't thank you all enough for the work that y'all are doing. I'm looking forward to you providing testimony, your members providing testimony, and I will keep you all apprised of just the inner workings of what is what bills are coming up or something we need to look out for, where if your members could call and advocate on specific issues. But I would love to keep you all updated. Like you said, there are thousands and thousands of bills that are filed every legislative session. It's hard to keep track of all of them. So please use me as a resource. I want to come back, talk to your viewers, give them updates, give me bills that you all want me to, talk about, and I will let you all know where it is, the politics behind it, all the cheesemate. I'll give you all the cheesemate behind it. But no, please count me in as one of your all's biggest fans, and I will definitely continue this throughout the session.
Well, likewise, and just let me leave you with this thought, Representative, just in case it does come up in the session, that technically it is illegal to go barefoot in the state of Texas unless you have a $5 permit. You need to purchase a $5 permit to legally go barefoot in the state of Texas. So,
where can I go get that permit? Like, what is this? Oh my gosh. So bad.
It's crazy.
All those laws. And I mean, you should actually
write a book,
You should, because I didn't know that. I mean, how many laws are like that? How many of these archaic, antiquated laws are out there like that?
Well, I appreciate your time, and to the listener, especially the ones in Texas. I mean, we very appreciate what you're doing. And if you're listening and you're outside the state of Texas, this is happening in every state, across every state house in the country. We need more representationship, not only Latino representationship, but I'm a believer that your House and your Senate should reflect the people it serves. And we don't have that parity. There's still minorities and people of color are definitely underrepresented. We got to work to that. We have the population. It's moving slowly. But Representative, you have been there on the vanguard. Thank you very much for what you're doing. We look forward to hearing from you again. And your chief of staff keeps on hitting my cell phone, so I'll go ahead and let you go. And ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Latino Business Report. Once again, my name is J.R. Gonzales. We've been here with Texas State Representative Claudia Ordaz from El Paso. Folks, we got to go, but thank you for listening.
All right, JR. Love you guys. Thank you.
Today's guest was Texas State Representative Claudia Ordaz from El Paso, Texas. If you like what you heard, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and we'll be sure we get back to you. You can find Latino Business Report anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're not a regular listener of a podcast, you can find us at latinobusinessreport.com. And you can also find our entire library of episodes on YouTube by the same name. Be careful out there. It's a crazy world. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, it is still illegal in the state of Texas to shoot buffalo from the second-story window of your hotel. Have a great day.